The Nevada desert has a silence all its own, a dry, endless hush that makes the smallest sound feel amplified. On an April night when the moon was nothing more than a thin white blade, Dr. Sarah Miller sat alone in the control room of the High Desert Observatory, listening to the hiss of the universe. Sarah was the lead astronomer on the Deep Listening Array, a sprawling cluster of radio telescopes spread across 50 miles of scrub and sandstone. Her colleagues often teased her for working the graveyard shift, but Sarah loved these hours. The world slept. The stars whispered. The control room glowed with the cool blues and greens of instrument panels. On her monitor, the data stream scrolled like an endless waterfall of numbers and waveforms. She sipped lukewarm coffee, noting a minor solar flare and a few bursts of cosmic background radiation. Routine, familiar. Then a new spike leapt across the spectrum, sharp and vertical, like a blade of light on the screen. She leaned closer. The spike repeated after exactly 1 minute and 47 seconds. Again. That's odd, she murmured, tapping commands to isolate the frequency. Static hissed from the speakers, but beneath it was a faint, deliberate click, 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 too precise to be random. Her first thought was interference, maybe a military satellite or a stray earthbound transmission. She toggled through filters, canceling terrestrial noise, ruling out known orbital frequencies. The pulse remained, steady as a metronome. Sarah's heart rate quickened. She opened the sky map overlay and locked the telescope's coordinates. The source came from the constellation Andromeda, specifically from the spiral galaxy M31, more than 2.5 million light-years away. "That can't be right," she whispered. For the next hour, she ran every diagnostic in the book. Hardware checks, calibration tests, weather interference analyses. Each time the signal emerged untouched, as though the universe itself insisted she listen. At 2:13 a.m., she called her longtime research partner, Nathan Cole, a data analyst known for skepticism as sharp as his mind. "You'd better have a good reason for waking me," he grumbled when he picked up. "I think Andromeda is calling," Sarah said, her voice tight. Nathan's tone sharpened. "Run that by me again?" By 3 a.m., Nathan arrived at the observatory, hair still damp from a rushed shower. He stood over Sarah's shoulder as she replayed the data. His brow furrowed. "Prime numbers," he muttered after a minute, recognizing the pattern in the timing of the pulses. He grabbed a notepad and began scribbling as the monitor filled with the digits of P 3.14159. Emerging from the noise. "That's deliberate," Nathan admitted. "No natural source would broadcast the mathematics of the universe back to us." The signal strengthened, as if aware it had their attention. Suddenly, the data stream changed. Numbers gave way to a sequence of compressed packets, binary bursts that hinted at imagery. Sarah's fingers flew across the keyboard, decoding the data into a visual. The monitor flickered and revealed a faint, grainy picture, a spiral galaxy distorted into an S-shaped curve. Another image followed, a luminous ring, almost like a nebula seen through rippling water. The third picture made Sarah's breath catch, two intertwined strands of light, unmistakably resembling a double helix, dotted with glowing nodes. Before she and Nathan could react, the speakers emitted a low harmonic tone. It deepened, layered, and resolved into something disturbingly like a voice, multiple voices, speaking in a chorus of alien resonance. Neither English nor any Earth language, yet strangely melodic. Then, cutting through the harmonics, a single word emerged in perfect accentless English. "Prepare." The sound was so sudden, so clear that Sarah nearly dropped her headphones. Nathan stared, eyes wide. It said, "Prepare?" The word repeated 3 times. Then the signal fell silent except for the rhythmic pulse. Sarah and Nathan exchanged a look that carried both exhilaration and dread. They weren't just hearing from another world. They were being warned. The first signs of interference by dawn. Sarah had copied the data to 3 separate encrypted drives and backed it up to the observatory's secure server. She drafted a report to the International Astronomical Union, planning to alert them before the next night's observation. But when she returned to the control room after a brief break, a chill slid down her spine. Her primary data file, hours of recordings, was gone. The folder was there, but every file inside showed corrupted. She checked the backups. The two she'd stored on the internal server were also unreadable, filled with gibberish symbols. Only the portable drive locked in her desk drawer remained intact. Nathan frowned. Could be a system glitch. Sarah shook her head. 3 independent storage systems fail at once? No. They checked the server logs. Someone had accessed the system at 5:42 a.m., a time when both of them were away from the control room, but no name or clearance code appeared. Nathan's voice dropped to a whisper. Somebody else knows. Before Sarah could reply, the observatory lights flickered. A deep thrum vibrated through the floor, followed by a complete power outage. The desert went black. The backup generators kicked in 30 seconds later, but the sudden silence left Sarah's skin prickling. When power returned, all telescopes were still locked on the Andromeda coordinates, and the signal was stronger than before. Lights over the desert. That night, Sarah stepped outside the dome for a breath of air. The portable drive tucked into her jacket like a talisman. The desert stretched in every direction, a dark ocean of sand and rock. At 3:13 a.m., the air temperature dropped sharply. She hugged her coat tighter. Then she saw them. 4 lights floated above the northern horizon, glowing a cold silver white. At first she thought they were distant aircraft, but they moved in perfect formation, silently, too steady for planes and too slow for satellites. The lights shifted into a diamond pattern, hovered for a heartbeat, and then, without a sound, winked out, leaving only the indifferent stars. Nathan stepped outside just as the last light vanished. Did you? Yes, Sarah said, voice tight. I saw them. They stared at the empty sky, the desert wind whispering through dry brush. The Andromeda signal pulsed steadily from the speakers inside, as if confirming what they had witnessed. Decision point back in the control room, Sarah replayed the night's data. The signal now included a new element, a faint subharmonic beat synced perfectly with her own heartbeat when she listened through headphones. It felt personal. Nathan rubbed his temples. If this is real, Sarah, we're talking about the first verified extraterrestrial contact in human history. But someone, or something, already tried to erase the evidence. Sarah gazed at the blinking cursor on her half-written report. If we go public too soon, the data could disappear. Or we could disappear. They sat in silence, the soft clicking of the Andromeda pulse filling the room. Finally, Sarah said, Tomorrow we build an off-grid archive, multiple locations, and we keep monitoring. Whatever this is, it's not finished. Nathan nodded slowly. And if they're not just sending a message? Sarah met his eyes. Then they're already here. Outside, the desert remained silent. But Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that someone, was watching from the darkness between the stars. The portable drive never left Dr. Sarah Miller's side. For 3 days after the first sighting, she carried it everywhere, strapped inside a thin leather pouch beneath her jacket, even when she slept. The Andromeda signal kept pulsing, stronger each night, and the world beyond the desert remained oblivious. Nathan Cole moved into the observatory's guest quarters to help around the clock. He brought extra laptops, hard drives, and a skeptical grin that faded each evening as new anomalies surfaced. Layer by layer, Sarah and Nathan divided the work. Nathan focused on cleaning the raw signal, filtering noise until the core pattern shone like a polished crystal. Sarah concentrated on the subfrequencies, those faint background tones that seemed to hum beneath the obvious pulses. By the 5th night, they uncovered a second layer, a set of coordinates hidden as phase shifts in the waveform. Plotting them on a star chart, Nathan felt the hair on his neck rise. They line up with the Kuiper belt, he said, right where the Voyager Pioneer probe reported those unexplained quantum disturbances last year. Sarah remembered that story. A brief media blip about a probe picking up localized gravitational irregularities before its instruments mysteriously reset. No one ever explained it. What if this is where the rift begins? She asked. Nathan looked at her sharply. You're calling it the Rift now? Sarah turned her monitor so he could see the latest decoded packet, alien glyphs arranged in a pattern almost like English letters. When run through a linguistic correlation algorithm, a single translation floated to the top in pale blue text. The rift grows. The message repeated across every packet. A council in the dark, they couldn't stay silent forever. Sarah used a secure satellite link to contact Dr. Leonard Voss, a prominent astrophysicist she knew from past conferences. She trusted Voss's sharp mind, if not his sharp elbows, in academic politics. 2 nights later, a black SUV crunched across the gravel road to the observatory. Out stepped Voss in a dark suit, flanked by 2 aides with government badges clipped to their belts. "You've stirred quite a storm." "Sarah," Voss said, eyes glittering behind his thin glasses. Sarah offered coffee but skipped pleasantries, playing the audio file of the alien chorus followed by the crystal-clear English word, "prepare." Voss listened, stone-faced. Finally, he said, "This does not leave this room. The Department of Advanced Aerospace Studies has a task force for incidents of potential non-human origin. We can protect you and your data." "I don't need protection," Sarah replied evenly. "I need independent analysis and a public record." "Public?" Voss's smile was polite but cold. "Let's not start a panic over a misinterpreted signal." Sarah's jaw tightened. "Misinterpreted?" "We have mathematics, imagery, language, and unverified provenance," he interrupted. "For all we know, this is a sophisticated terrestrial hoax. Let my team examine it." Nathan crossed his arms. "We're keeping the original drive. You get a copy, nothing more." Voss's gaze flicked to the pouch at Sarah's side. For a heartbeat, she thought he might simply reach for it. Instead, he nodded, that thin smile never touching his eyes. "Very well. But be careful, Doctor. Powerful interests dislike surprises." Encoded warnings, after Voss left, Sarah doubled their security. They installed redundant off-grid servers, buried backups in fireproof cases beneath the desert sand, and routed communications through encrypted satellites. The signal, meanwhile, evolved. The melodic voices split into harmonic braids, each carrying separate data streams. Nathan mapped them like overlapping strands of music. One strand contained instructions for constructing resonance chambers, geometric structures designed to emit precise frequencies. The alien diagrams showed towering pylons linked by superconducting coils, forming polygons on a planetary scale. Their purpose? Nathan asked. Sarah highlighted a translated phrase. "Anchor the breach." Another strand delivered what looked like biological data. Complex double helices with glowing nodes. If the translation algorithms were right, these were not DNA codes as humans knew them, but phase-stabilized life matrices, whatever that meant. A third strand was stranger still. Instead of math or schematics, it carried a haunting sound, a low heartbeat-like rhythm accompanied by faint whispers. When Sarah slowed the recording, the whispers resolved into English words spoken in overlapping voices. "Do not trust the broken anchor," the phrase repeated 3 times. Nathan exhaled sharply. "What the hell is the broken anchor?" "Someone or something that undermines the stabilizers," Sarah guessed. "Maybe sabotage from within." They looked at each other. The warning felt personal. The world begins to stir. Though the public remained unaware, subtle disturbances rippled across the globe. Commercial pilots reported ghost lights pacing their aircraft over the Pacific. An Alaskan fishing crew swore they saw columns of light rising from the sea. Astronauts aboard the International Space Station described a faint, constant ringing in their ears, followed by vivid dreams of alien landscapes. Satellite networks logged unexplained outages, brief but widespread. Power grids from Canada to South Africa experienced simultaneous surges. Climate scientists noted freak atmospheric tides shifting in patterns that matched the Andromeda pulse frequency. Sarah compiled every report, overlaying them on a world map. The anomalies formed a rough geometric pattern, points that, if connected, resembled the very polygons described in the alien schematics. "They're drawing a blueprint on the planet itself," she said. Geneva Voss eventually summoned Sarah and Nathan to a secret summit in Geneva. A coalition of scientists, military advisors, and intelligence officers from a dozen nations. The meeting took place in a windowless conference room beneath the European Particle Research Facility. Monitors displayed real-time cosmic data. Guards with no insignia stood at every door. Sarah presented the Andromeda signal, the decoded warnings, and the chamber schematics. The room buzzed with tension. Dr. Hannelore Kruger of the German Space Agency leaned forward. "If these instructions are genuine, we must start construction immediately." An American Air Force general shook his head. "Or it's a trap, a technology we can't control." A Chinese physicist countered, "Whether trap or salvation, the rift, whatever it is measurable. Our own satellites confirm localized distortions near the Kuiper Belt. Arguments flared. Funding, secrecy, jurisdiction. Some wanted to weaponize the technology. Others demanded total transparency. Sarah felt frustration rise. "While you debate patents and protocols, the rift is growing. We need cooperation, not possession." Her plea met a wall of cautious faces. During a break, her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "They stand among you." "Do not trust the broken anchor." She scanned the room. Voss stood near the door, speaking quietly with a suited aide. When their eyes met, he offered the faintest smile. Back to the desert, Sarah returned to Nevada more determined and more uneasy than ever. Nathan greeted her with grim news. The observatory's security cameras had captured a tall figure in a lab coat wandering the corridors at 3 a.m. The intruder's face never appeared clearly, as though the video itself blurred around it. Nothing was stolen, but every instrument had been powered down for exactly 4 minutes, the precise interval needed to duplicate the main data drive. Whoever it was, "They left no footprints," Nathan said, pointing to the untouched dust on the hallway floor. That night, the Andromeda signal surged in intensity, louder and faster, until the speakers vibrated. Then, for the first time, it shifted direction, from the distant galaxy toward Earth itself, as if aiming straight at the high desert observatory. Sarah listened, heart hammering. The layered voices grew urgent, cascading like an alien symphony. "Prepare, prepare, anchor." The lights in the control room flickered. Outside, the desert wind howled as if something immense moved just beyond sight. Sarah gripped the console. "They're coming here," she whispered. Nathan's eyes widened. "Or—" "They're already here." The desert night had never felt so alive. At the high desert observatory, Dr. Sarah Miller and Nathan Cole stood side by side before the main window, staring into the ink-black horizon. Every monitor glowed crimson with the same pulsating waveform, the Andromeda signal, but now the pulses were no longer measured. They leapt and rolled like ocean surf, accelerating until the speakers rattled in their frames. Then the power died. Not a flicker, not a brownout. Everything simply stopped. Lights, computers, heating, even Sarah's wristwatch. The only sound was the hollow roar of the wind across the sand. The sky opens. A thin blue line carved itself across the night sky, too bright to be natural. It stretched from horizon to horizon like a seam splitting the heavens. Inside that glowing fissure, stars warped and twisted as though the universe itself were bending. Nathan grabbed the edge of the console. "Sarah, is that—" "The rift," she finished, her voice barely a whisper. The Andromeda signal surged again, no longer a distant broadcast, but a surround sound presence inside their skulls. Words formed directly in Sarah's mind, bypassing her ears. "Anchor the breach or be consumed." Her knees weakened. Nathan steadied her, eyes wide with the same realization. This was direct telepathy. Visitors in the dark, the observatory doors swung open without a sound. 3 figures stepped inside, each wrapped in a faint silver luminescence. They were tall, well over 7 feet, yet their movements were smooth and unhurried, like reeds swaying in water. Their faces shimmered, not fixed but fluid, as if reality couldn't decide on their features. Nathan instinctively reached for the emergency flashlight. One figure raised a long, delicate hand, and the beam froze mid-switch, a solid column of light suspended in air. Sarah's mind filled with layered voices, harmonies of dozens speaking at once. We are the echoes of Andromeda. The rift widens. The broken anchor seeks release. The words resonated like music in her bones. Why us? Sarah managed to think. The reply came as a chorus. You listen. Others hide. Proof beyond doubt one of the echoes extended a translucent sphere the size of a grapefruit. It hovered before Sarah, spinning slowly. Within it swirled miniature galaxies, each one luminous and impossibly detailed. This is data? Nathan asked aloud. A map of possible tomorrows, the echoes replied. One path ends in silence. One path endures, Sarah reached out. The sphere dissolved into her palm, and suddenly she saw cities drowned by lightless storms, skies fractured by violet lightning, oceans rising to swallow continents. She gasped and staggered back. But the visions kept coming. Another path where titanic pylons, resonance chambers, stood like guardians, emitting soothing chords that sealed the rift until the sky healed. The images faded, leaving only the echo of alien music in her mind. The broken anchor Nathan steadied her. What about the warning? The broken anchor? The echo's forms wavered, their luminescence dimming. One of your own weakens the weave? Ambition blinds him. A name flickered across Sarah's thoughts unbidden. Dr. Leonard Voss. Her pulse quickened. Voss had insisted on secrecy, had pressed for control of the data, and someone had broken into the observatory days ago. He seeks the rift's power, the echoes intoned. If the chambers are built to his design, the breach will never close. Sarah's mind raced. Voss had access to governments, militaries, funding, enough to build the resonance network before anyone else. World in motion sirens wailed in the valley below. Cell service blinked back to life with a flood of notifications. Seismic spikes worldwide, mysterious auroras above major cities, reports of ribbon lightning splitting the night over the Pacific. International feeds announced emergency summits and unexplained air traffic shutdowns. The world was noticing. Nathan checked the observatory's backup transmitter. It's not just the Kuiper belt anymore, he said. The rift's energy is everywhere, ionosphere, magnetosphere, even deep-sea sensors. It's like the planet's turning into an antenna. Sarah turned to the echoes. What do we do? Anchor the breach. Build the harmonic lattice. But beware the one you call Voss. Decision point. The silver figures began to fade, their edges scattering into motes of light. We cannot remain. The breach strains all worlds. Choice belongs to you. The chamber fell silent. Only the steady rush of desert wind remained. Nathan exhaled. They're gone. Sarah's hands trembled. Not gone. Waiting. She opened her laptop, the screen glowing with a final gift. Complete schematics for the global resonance chambers, far more detailed than anything decoded earlier. Coordinates dotted every continent, mountain peaks, deep-sea trenches, polar ice shelves. It's a planetary network, Nathan murmured, and we have to convince the world to build it, Sarah said, before Voss builds it wrong. Racing the clock, they transmitted the schematics through encrypted channels to every trusted scientist Sarah knew. Hannelore Kruger in Berlin, Dr. Ishan Patel at the Lunar Research Array, Maria Santos at the Chilean Sky Ring. Responses poured back within minutes, shock, awe, disbelief. Meanwhile, global anomalies intensified. Magnetospheres flickered, causing compasses to spin. Entire power grids collapsed and rebooted in rhythmic pulses matching the Andromeda signal. Ocean tides rose and fell by meters within hours. Governments scrambled to maintain order. Rumors of alien contact leaked, sparking protests and mass gatherings under the strange auroras. The betrayal, an urgent message flashed on Sarah's private satellite link. Dr. Miller, Geneva compromised. Voss moving forward with construction in Siberia? Military assets secured. Plans diverge from your design, Nathan swore. He's beating us to it. Sarah's stomach nodded. If Voss altered the chamber geometry even slightly, the echoes had warned the rift might never close. "We have to stop him," she said. "But how? He's got government clearance and a private army." Sarah stared at the shimmering seam still visible in the sky. The blue fissure pulsed like a heartbeat. "We go to Siberia," she said finally. "We show the world the truth before he locks the planet into the wrong future." A final message, as if in answer, the observatory speakers crackled one last time. The Andromeda signal returned, but softer, almost like a lullaby. "Courage binds the lattice. Follow the harmonic path." The rift brightened, bathing the desert in eerie light. Then, as suddenly as it had appeared, the glowing seam winked out, leaving only a star-strewn sky. Sarah and Nathan stood in silence, the desert air electric around them. "We have our marching orders," Nathan said quietly. Sarah nodded, resolve hardening. The true battle, against time, against fear, against Voss himself, was just beginning. The Russian tundra stretched endless and white when Dr. Sarah Miller and Nathan Cole finally touched down. Above them, the sky shimmered with violent green auroras, the widening rift glowing like a vertical scar in space. Every hour, the planet trembled a little more. They drove through swirling snow toward a research outpost that was anything but. Floodlights revealed a gigantic steel framework shaped as a pentagon, its pylons already humming with energy. This was the resonance chamber Dr. Leonard Voss had insisted would save humanity. Nathan stared upward. "If he powers that thing, the wrong frequency locks in. We lose the planet." Voss's vision, inside a heated command tent, Voss waited, immaculate in a fur-lined coat. "You made good time," he said, eyes cold. "I warned you. Sevenfold geometry is superstition. A 5-point array harnesses the rift's energy. Clean power for centuries," Sarah held her ground. "The echoes warned us. Your design tears the rift wider." Voss's lips curved in a faint smile. "Progress demands risk. I will not let fear decide our evolution." An engineer approached with a tablet. "Activation in 30 minutes, Doctor." A global network Sarah's satellite phone vibrated. Encrypted text scrolled across the screen. 7-node lattice ready. Awaiting trigger." Her allies, scientists on every continent, had improvised a worldwide network of receivers and deep-sea cables. They just needed the harmonic key hidden in the Andromeda signal. Nathan opened their portable decoder. From the original data emerged a haunting 7-note chord, more music than math. "That's it," Sarah whispered. "If we feed this into Voss's array, it might override his pattern and stabilize the rift." "But we'll need his power," Nathan said. They exchanged a look. No other option. Into the storm. They slipped out as a burst of auroral light turned night into eerie daylight. Guards scrambled, distracted by instruments shrieking warnings. Sarah and Nathan sprinted to the massive pentagon array, its pylons trembling like tuning forks. Inside the central control hub, a red countdown ticked. 08 Zhao. Nathan jacked the transmitter into the harmonic generator. "Once we play this chord, there's no going back." Sarah nodded and keyed the sequence. Clash of Wills Voss appeared on the upper catwalk with 2 armed guards. "Step away from that console!" His voice echoed through the chamber. "You can't stop what's coming!" "You're going to destroy the world!" Sarah shouted. "The echo's geometry is the only way to close the rift." "Hallucinations!" Voss snapped. "This energy is humanity's future." The guards started down the stairs. Nathan whispered, "We're out of time." Sarah hit enter. The 7-fold chord a resonant harmony erupted, 7 interwoven notes that seemed to vibrate in bone and air alike. Blue light flooded the pylons, drowning out the pentagon's angry red. Above, the rift blazed, edges glowing gold instead of cobalt. Soldiers stopped in awe as the sky itself seemed to sing. Through the roar came the familiar multi-voiced message. "Courage binds the lattice." The breach begins to heal. Voss lunged for the controls, but a surge of blue electricity hurled him back. The array ignored his commands, locked into the echo's frequency. The sky folds all across Earth. Sarah's allies reported identical beams of light rising from oceans, deserts, mountain peaks. For a single breathtaking minute, the planet glowed in a web of golden columns. The rift convulsed like a dying star, then collapsed inward. A deafening crack split the air. Light narrowed to a single brilliant point and vanished. Night returned, quiet and ordinary. Aftermath. Silence rolled across the tundra. Compasses steadied. Auroras faded to a soft shimmer. The world, for the first time in weeks, felt still. Soldiers lowered their weapons, stunned. Nathan exhaled a long, trembling breath. "We did it." Sarah looked at the dark sky where the seam had been. "For now." Voss stirred, dazed but alive, his grand plan erased. No one moved to help him. A final whisper weeks later, back at the High Desert Observatory, Sarah tuned the array to the old frequency. Static filled the speakers, then a faint, layered melody, soft as a lullaby. The lattice holds. Until the next dawn, she smiled into the endless stars. They're still watching. Nathan raised a mug of coffee beside her. To the echoes, he said, and to the humans who finally listened. The cosmos above glittered with quiet promise, the rift sealed, for now.